Dead Rock Chapter 23 is officially out, and this was an insane chapter. Not only get to see what happened with Ryzen confronting the killer of his princess, but we also get to see some more about the teacher of Class F and the conclusion to AG versus Frey and how it just was absolutely incredible. Great action, great stuff for Frey, and AG really was a true menace in this fight. And Frey was no slouch either. I cannot wait to jump right into this chapter and talk about it. But before we jump into it, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. But now then, let's just jump straight into Dead Rock Chapter 23, titled IFRIT. And the cover image is Yakuto and Frey just staring at each other with a skull heart in it. I feel like Mashima, even though he said at the beginning of the series he wasn't going to do a love interest character, it's definitely being built up that Frey and Yakuto could just be love interests at the end of the day. But it is what it is. I don't mind it. It's kind of cute, but we move on. Now the chapter starts off directly from the last one, with Ryzen confronting the murderer of the princess, Hannibal, asking why he's there. But Hannibal, with a smile, says, "I didn't kill her, I ate her," with that sword. And that just pisses off Ryzen even more, feeding into the theory that the princess was absorbed into the sword, not technically killed, but yeah, I'm curious to see what that fully means. But from Ryzen's reaction, Hannibal says, "Looks like you still treasure it." But Ryzen grabs the sword, asking, "What did you come here for?" But Hannibal goads him, stating, "Oh, are you going to swing the princess around to fight?" As Ryzen lunges at him with his sword, saying, "Tell me why you're here." But with one push, Hannibal knocks Ryzen back, making him seemingly unable to fight. As he just says, "God called me here. He's making me teach," revealing that Hannibal was an alumni of Dead Rock. As he says, "Bet we're gonna have some fun, Ryzen." And man, this sets up Ryzen's arc going forward, and I'm curious to see how it's going to progress forward and how us learning more about Ryzen's backstory is going to progress the story, because based off the last chapter, we're definitely going to be getting something with Hannibal that could lead to answers going forward, and him being in Dead Rock now just makes things even more interesting. But back to the fight with Frey and AG. The two of them are staring down, but AG says enough, with Frey kind of smirking, be like, "Oh, you giving up? Good, because I'm kind of wiped out right now." But no, AG was just saying, "I'm done playing around. I wanted to kill you really cruelly in front of Yakuto, but whatever, I'll just kill you." As once he lunges towards Frey, his form changes into a larger, darker wolf, as he then hits Frey with a massively strong right hook, as his power has grown even stronger. And this catches God by surprise, as in a tense panel we see AG clasping onto Frey's skull, as God is shocked and reveals that AG also awakened as an origin root. Now, either he had this power to begin with, or he awakened in this fight, we're not clear, but I feel like with how he was talking about it, AG had this power in the back pocket and didn't want to use it yet, but against Frey, he just wanted to end things quickly. And as he has his hand on her head, he begins to squeeze and crush it, as everybody is just telling Frey to break out of it, but Mikoto just says Frey is at a strength. As IG tells her to shatter, and he begins to crush her head, Frey thinks back to Yakuto and essentially says, "Sorry, guess this is it for me." And as AG also thinks back on his best friend and how Yakuto killed him, in its course of revenge, AG is saying, "My one and only friend was killed right before my eyes. I'll show you how it feels, Yakuto." I like it how an antagonist that we're facing in a fight to the death really does show that he cares for the people around him, and he's doing this for revenge for his best friend / rival. That adds a bit more layer to AG as a character, at least for this fight, so I'm really glad for it. As Yakuto looks in despair, Frey's body limps, and with a big grin on his face, and in a 2-page spread, AG completely destroys Frey's head, as it completely dissipates into a splatter of blood, shocking everybody, as Frey's body falls to the ground, Eiji with a sinister grin, and Yakuto with a murderous look on his face, as it seems like Frey has been killed. But before anyone else could react, a sputter of flame appears from where her head was, and her body begins to dissipate and reform into a figure of fire. And God says this root is IFRIT, and in a glorious 2-page spread, we see Frey with a brand new transformation, fully embodying the root of IFRIT. And my lord, this looks amazing. It's like a fiery Super Saiyan for Frey. The pattern on her, the way the flames bellow, the way her hair looks like a literal blazing flame. It looks amazing. This might be one of Hiro Mashima's best transformations for even a secondary character. And honestly, it's one of my personal favorites right now. I'm probably going to make this a thumbnail, but either way, this looks absolutely beautiful and badass. I hoped that Frey would get a transformation due to origin root, and this is what I got shortly after. This was absolutely beautiful and insane, and everyone's in shock. Eiji stares at Frey in her amazing form, obviously, as Frey, in this close-up of her face, looks, again, beautiful. Frey says, "Looks like I can turn my body into flames," as everyone's in disbelief, and Frey says that she achieved her goal by killing Ryzen. So she came up with a new goal, and that's to graduate from the school with the rest of Class F, as everybody reacts to it with a smile, and Ryzen looking to see that he has made it back to the fight. Frey begins to dissipate and expand into fire, saying, "So I can't lose to anyone." And as she turns into a spiraling trail of flames, she then goes inside of Eiji's mouth, as he then begins to burn up from the inside out. And as he looks at Yakuto with fear in his eyes, Yakuto says, "You underestimated Frey, and now you're going to lose." And even rubs salt in the wound by saying, "What was your name again?" As then, the last thing Eiji says is, just with sheer anger in his eyes, Yakuto cursing his name, as he explodes in a massive ball of fire from the inside out, in a honestly brutal way to go out, as Frey kills him with her brand new abilities. She comes out, reforms herself from her fire, and goes back to her base form. Just saying, this power's the best, and I wholeheartedly agree. It was awesome. As the crowd cheers, as now Frey is the victor, making it so that now Yakuto and Frey fight in the finals of this tournament. And with that, the brackets are set. Yakuto and Frey meet up, as now she tells Yakuto that she can fight all out. Now Yakuto asks what she's talking about. It's a fight to the death. One of us is gonna have to die. But Frey says it's okay as long as I'm fighting you. But Yakuto says, "Look, I don't want to kill a comrade," which kind of has Frey a bit dumbfounded, as she kind of repeats his words from the first day of Dead Rock, saying, "You've changed, Yakuto. It used to be you'd do anything for your goal." And Yakuto says, "Well, yeah, I said I'd use you guys from the start, but that doesn't mean I don't think you guys matter to me at all. I have a plan, a way for both of us to get out of this alive." With Frey asking, "You think God will let us?" But Yakuto just says, "Leave it to me." So I'm curious to see what this plan is that he's going to get out of a fight to the death, essentially, to win this thing. Or for all we know, they might leave it off with a tie. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what this is going to lead into. For all we know, Yakuto kills Frey, and then she gets brought back as a zombie through Mikoto's necromancy. But I kind of don't want that to be the case. It'll feel like a cop-out. But there has to be an interesting way for things to go about them both surviving this literal fight to the death. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go as we move forward. But we then cut to God's throne room, as he talks to Saru, who is the new teacher for Class F and based off of Sun Wukong, as God compliments him for his students that are standing out. But Saru says, "I'd like to request you call off the final match. It's too cruel to ask a student to kill a classmate." Obviously, Baltagar says that we should just let Class F kill each other off, and God says, I want to see them fight, with Lilith agreeing. Saru says, as the teacher in charge of them, I gotta say, students are like treasures, aren't they? Kinda catching God's attention as he's wondering why he thinks this. And with a serious look, Saru says, maybe I ain't handling them right, but I love them. And the last panel of the chapter is God telling Saru, looks like you're a pretty good teacher. Why don't you show me how strong that love is? As the chapter ends. Now, obviously the fight with AG and Frey was awesome. Frey fully utilizing the full power of her origin roots, gaining a brand new fiery transformation. And again, I cannot compliment design enough. But Frey was awesome. She won her fight in a pretty honestly cool yet brutal fashion. And now she has to fight Yakuto. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm curious to see how that's going to work out and how we'll manage to get out of this. But this might be how Saru ties into things. Now, ever since his introduction, he's been kind of suspicious. We've all been wondering what's going on with Saru. He's their new teacher. We haven't really seen him do anything. He just has some reactions to things here and there. And so everybody was wondering if he would be some sort of ally in the future. And with this chapter, it seems Saru is at least more Team Class F because he doesn't want Frey and Yakuto to kill him. He has grown attached to them, even though he hasn't really, at least us, we haven't seen him, interact with Class F much since he became their teacher. So it's probably off-screen stuff, and that's kind of a bit of a gripe. But he does like the students, and he doesn't want to see them kill each other. He wants to let them keep growing. And with how God is saying, like, show me your love for your students, I feel like he's gonna have Saru fight maybe Baltagar or Lilith, or have him prove himself in some big way, and I'm curious to see how it's gonna play out, because I would love to see him fight, and I would love him to be a true blue mentor to Class F, and be a true ally. That'd be awesome. We're missing that real mentor character in this series, and I really feel like Saru could be that character, depending on how Majima writes him. But either way, this is an awesome chapter. We got the finals, Frey got a new form, Saru seems to be an ally, at least for the time being, and everything going on with Ryzen sets up some stuff for his story moving forward. I'm excited. But what do you guys think of this chapter? What do you think of the things that are going to happen in the future of Dead Rock? How do you think things are going to progress? How do you think this tournament's going to play out if they'll manage to get out of this fight to the death? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. And once more, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel, and shows you want to see more. With all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.